Good morning. Before we get started today, I want to ask you a question. Just give me a show of hands. How many of you, when you first meet someone that has an obvious, visible disability, kind of feel a little awkward, like you don't want to offend, you're not quite sure what to say? It's okay to be honest. Guess what? I'm holding up my hand. I've been in that same situation. I get it. Now that we've got that out of the way, let me introduce myself. My name's Jamie. I'm a wife, a fur baby mama. I'm a scrapbooker, small business owner. I supervise a team of interns. I'm an auntie. I am a college graduate. There's many things about me. I hold many, many hats. I'm also obviously a person with a disability. I promise I did not buy this really expensive prop to make myself a really good house gift because I bring my own chair, right? Here's the thing. Throughout my lifetime of being a person with disability, I've often encountered situations with people from the able-bodied world who are trying to say something nice, they're trying to engage me, they're trying to relate, or they're just trying to be helpful. But what they say or do is not actually communicating what they think they're communicating. So today, what I'm going to do is share 4 scenarios with you that are the most common situations that I run into as a person with disability. Now, I don't share these to shame anyone, and I don't want anyone to stew or worry about it. This is more of a way to help make connections, a way to help communicate, to show you that this is what people say, this is kind of what they're communicating, and then we'll talk about maybe a better way to communicate what they're trying to say. Before we get into those 4 scenarios, I do want to make it clear that I can't, and I'm not even going to try to represent all people with disabilities. We are a diverse group. Did you know that according to the 2010 US Census, 18.7% of surveyed people identified as being a person with a disability? Think about that in all of your different audiences and the people that you interact with. 18.7%. That's a pretty large group. While we're a very diverse group, though, we are all human and we all deserve to be treated with dignity. That's a common thing that we all hold, whether you are disabled or you are not disabled. Now, let's get on to those 4 scenarios. You're going to see me interact with 4 volunteers, and they're going to say the different comments or do the different actions that people do to me, and you'll see how I tend to try to respond. I'm too nice to respond with snark or meanness. I don't believe in treating people rudely. So you're going to see how I respond, and then we're going to talk about different ways to maybe communicate similar ideas or better ideas in a better, more efficient way. First, let's talk about that first scenario.
Jamie, I think I might have missed. Did you say why you're in a wheelchair?
Actually, no, I didn't. Why do you ask?
I'm just curious.
Oh, okay. I get that question a lot. Here's the thing. I don't care if people know why I'm in a wheelchair. I'll tell you right now, I was born with spina bifida. But if someone just comes up to me that they either just met me or they've not even introduced themselves, and they just ask, so, I'm curious, why are you in a wheelchair? Think about that. They're asking my medical record. What if I walked up to you and said, so how's that cholesterol? How much do you weigh? How is the results of your last exam? Not only is that really awkward and just inappropriate, it's none of my business. That's the kind of thing that you wait until you get to know the person and you get to know them as a human being before you learn that about them. If you want to know something about somebody, I like it when people ask my name. Ask me my taste in music. The first thing you need to know about me isn't my medical history, unless you're a medical professional and, well, we'll be behind closed doors, but you understand the difference. Let's move on to that second scenario. In this situation, this is another thing that happens to me a lot. You'll see what this happens.
Jamie, I just want you to know that I don't see your disability.
I'm sorry you see it that way, but thank you. I understand what you're trying to say. I either get patted on the shoulder or patted on the head, by the way, because I'm clearly a puppy dog. That sounds great. What people are trying to say when they say that is that they see me as a person, that they don't see the disability first. But the sheer fact that they need to tell me that says that they saw the disability first. And that makes them a really bad liar. It's like telling a person of color that you don't see color. It just makes it obvious that that's not actually true. Again, this is a time when you can just see me as a person. And instead of saying that you don't see my disability, keep in mind that A, it's not true, and B, the disability is part of who I am. It is not my identity. It is not what defines me in any way, shape, or form. But how I choose to react to it and how I choose to react to the situations around it shapes my worldview, and it shapes how I respond to the world. It shapes how I choose to respond to all of you. That makes it part of who I am. So instead of telling me that you don't see my disability, see me as a whole person. See that as part of who I am, and realize that another thing you're communicating with that is that if you tell me that you don't see my disability, you're telling me that it's something to be excused or even something that you want to ignore. That's not seeing me for me. That's not helpful. That's not kind. It's dismissive. Let's move on to that third scenario.
Oh, Jamie, I was in a wheelchair once for a few weeks. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Okay. That's pretty much all I get out with that one because there's no nice way to be like, yeah, you're crazy. Okay, that was rude, but you get the point. Completely different situations. Someone that says that kind of thing to me or anyone else with any kind of visible disability, they're simply trying to relate. That's all they're trying to do. They're trying to say, I get you, I hear you, I see you. But that's not what it communicates. It communicates that you don't really understand the situation. It's one of those things that if you actually got it, you wouldn't say that. If you were in a wheelchair for a lifetime, it does not compare to if you sprained your ankle and were in it for a week. In two ways. For one thing, my situation's permanent, but it's also given me the ability to adapt. So something that would have been an incredibly frustrating and traumatic experience for you, all of a sudden went from walking to having to manage one of these things, just completely different experiences. If you want to relate to me with a common experience, relate to me in something that you actually can understand. Say we're at the same event. Why are you at that event? What brought us both to that event? What's our common interest there? Are we in the same life cycle? Are we in the same spot in life, season in life? Talk about that. Are we both small business owners? There's so many different commonalities that we can find as people that we can make those connections and truly relate instead of trying to relate on topics that we just have different understandings of. Now, finally, we're going to go with the fourth scenario. And this one is more of an action than things that people say to me. And it's something that...
Here, let me help you.
I even knew that was coming. And help people who need help. If you come up and just start pushing someone in their wheelchair, think of it. He was behind me, and he just decided he was going to be helpful and just push me. I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm perfectly fine right here. Thank you. There was no need to push me. Let me tell you a story. When I was a kid, I don't remember how old, I had to have been probably 5th grade. I was coming out of a fitness center where I had just finished swimming lessons. And my mom had gone to go take the car to bring it up to the curb, so it would be less of a trip for me. And I was going down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden, this man just came up and started pushing me. And I said, "Oh, no, thank you, I've got it." He chuckled and continued to push me. So I grabbed my wheels and said, "Oh, no, thank you," not thinking he didn't hear me. No, thank you, I've got it." He continued to push me. And at this point, he started pushing me away from my mother, who was directly in front of us. That was startling at best. That's the polite way of saying it. I was in 5th grade. I was scared. I'm almost 40 years old, and I still remember that. I still remember the sounds. I still remember everything about that incident. I truly believe he wasn't trying to kidnap me. He was just trying to help. But he ignored my repeated no's, and he grabbed my body without consent. Now you're probably thinking, wait, I thought she said he grabbed her wheelchair. If Barry, who just demonstrated, if I had grabbed his belt and started helping him walk, I'm not touching him, right? I just grabbed him, got up in his personal space, and took control of his body without consent. It's the same thing. This is part of me. With these different situations, I think it's important to remember to not just not help. Treat me and other people with disabilities like you would anyone else. Ask first. And it's up to them to say yes or no. Quite frankly, they may say no just because they don't want to be a bother. But it's up to them to accept. I know I'm perfectly willing to hand off my burden if I need it. After these 4 scenarios, I want to share 2 harsh truths, but they're important about this topic. First of all, no means no. And I think also, I will say, those of us with disabilities, we have to be clear on what we're communicating. I know I've often said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, I got it." And that communicates the idea of, I actually kind of need help, but I don't want to bother you. If I mean no, I need to say no, thank you. I mean, I'm not going to be no. I'm not going to be angry about it. No, thank you. We live in the South, we should be polite. But ultimately, no means no. The second truth is that what you think is being helpful may not actually be as helpful as you think. It could be annoying, it could almost be dangerous, or it could just be not necessary. So keep that in mind. So ask if they want help, and ask if there's a way that you can help. Keep that in mind, that it's not necessarily what they need. If you're in a store, don't assume that just because I'm sitting in a wheelchair that I need you to do something for me. An elderly person, or I especially think of the moms that are trying to juggle a toddler and a baby all at the same time. I always offer to help them because I'm like, can I reach something for you? Because, only 2 hands. There's so many different people that need help. Find those people. We all want to be helpful, but always ask. Now that we've looked at these 4 scenarios, I want you to go away today with thinking of the ideas of looking through other people's eyes instead of putting yourself in their shoes. I want you to think about ways that you maybe have communicated, and then find these new ways to communicate. I'm not trying to give you a list of don't say this, don't say that, because that drives me crazy. It makes me nervous. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to deal with people in that situation. But just think about what you're saying, and think about what it's actually saying and ways to do it a different way. As I said, look through their eyes, not putting yourself in their shoes or your butt in their seat. Either way, I hope that you'll take this talk today and not only change your own ideas and your own behavior, but you'll help other people understand. Thank you.